Welcome to Educate, Inform, and Challenge. My name is Teresa MacLennan, Executive Director of the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. We are so glad that you have joined us today here on our program. And of course, as you know, the purpose of our show is to talk about the lives and experiences of women. We talk about gender-based violence, human trafficking. We also talk about women leaders in our community, business women, politicians, folks who volunteer and really want to give back. And so a real wide gamut that we do talk about here, and we always find the most interesting, wonderful people to talk with. And today is going to be no different. Before we begin, we do want to thank and acknowledge our Indigenous community. We thank you for allowing us to share in this space, to have these conversations, to learn, to grow together. We thank you for culture. We thank you for heritage and history and the learnings that you allow us in being here. So thank you very much. I am thrilled today to welcome my friend and guest today, Amy Corser, who is a City of Barrie councillor. And we're going to just dive in about her life and experience in municipal politics. And we're going to get to know her quite a bit more. And, you know, I often say that there are great people in our community that we should all get to know a little bit more. Amy is one of those folks. And so I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. Welcome, Amy. It is so nice to see you.
Thank you for having me, Teresa. I'm excited.
Yeah, good stuff. So I know that, of course, you're City of Barrie councillor. You wear many, many hats. And, you know, let's talk about you. Let's talk about the multitude of hats that you wear, and let's get to know a little bit more about you. So what would you like to share with our viewers?
Well, I guess Ward 4 councillor, City of Barrie. I am not the typical person that you'd see in this role. My many hats that I wear, I'm a mom, recovering digital marketer. Yeah, that was a tough gig for a while, 18 years. I decided to make a bit of a change, as most people did during COVID, and find a new path. And I found myself becoming more involved in community issues, and which led me to running for office eventually. I have a 9-year-old son, and he is an evil genius, and it is a full-time job in itself trying to keep him engaged and follow him around. I refer to him as my handler. Uh, and my partner is Dallas, and he is working construction in downtown Toronto in ICI. So we've lived in Barrie. I've lived in Barrie my whole life. I was born and raised here. And we bought a house very thankfully 20 years ago. So we're very, very fortunate that, you know, as the housing market is today, we were very fortunate to buy a long, long time ago. And I guess that brings me to today, I suppose. My background is construction worker, factory worker, and high school dropout. And that is me.
So this is the amazing pieces, I think, for our viewers to realize about Amy, that what we are learning, what we're going to know about Amy is the real person behind the politician, the real woman behind the role. And what I always appreciate is the frank openness, transparency about her life and who she is in such a relatable way for all of us. And how refreshing is that in terms of having somebody on city council? I wanted to ask you to define for us. You said at the beginning, Amy, I'm not your typical, you know, municipal leader. Why would you describe yourself that way?
Well, I like to I like to tell everyone that, because I think it's important to realize that what we stereotypical envision as what a city councillor is, or a leader in the community, is not particularly what we need as a leader or councillor or anyone in a position of power is the old guard needs to change. And I think that we are all aware of that. As I mentioned before, Teresa knows this, I'm neurodiverse. I'm a card carrying member of the ADHD club, and I have been way before it was cool. I was diagnosed in my early 30s, over 20 years ago. And I think that that brings something else to the table as well, because you think about things differently, you see things differently, you fall down rabbit holes, you do the research, and sometimes you have to be mindful of that. But you do, it's a different, you'd have a different perspective. Your lens is completely different than somebody who's neurotypical. And that's important because you see some things that other people just don't. And it's a good thing to have.
Yes, and I love that description, right? Because I think about the role that you have as a municipal leader to try and relate and to represent the community, right? And we want our community to be one that is accepting of the diverse nature of everybody in it. And how
Mm.
refreshing and welcoming and wonderful it is to have someone such as yourself who is expressing that diversity, expressing the difference that you bring to the table. And that is the acceptance that we want to have in our community about all people. And so I just applaud you because I think it is absolutely wonderful and refreshing to hear your openness and just, sharing with us those pieces of you, because what that does is welcome the door for all of us to be different.
100%.
And I love, yeah.
I always bring it up. I always, I think everybody, as viewers might not know, I always take the opportunity to bring that out. Because as a woman in a leadership position, so often we hear the stories of, well, I could never do that. And I'm not suggesting that everyone can. There are definitely barriers in place, but the barriers in place might not be the ones you think they are. And you need to take a look at the again, what is stereotypical a leader is, I believe, not what we need moving forward, because we have so many complex issues now. We need to have complex voices. We need to have diversity. We need to have people at the table that are not what is what would be, I don't want to say the old white man syndrome, but that kind of idea of that stereotype. And a lot of women or neurodiverse or diverse people will say, well, I don't see myself there. And I think that it's important as my role to say, I'm here, and you can see yourself maybe in me, or see that that opportunity is there, because I don't come from C-suite. I don't come from the university background. I don't come from these places that a lot of people do. And it's good to have that kind of representation, I believe.
Absolutely. We do need to have representation that's welcoming of all diverse folks, right, in our community. I think it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm so thankful with the frank conversation, because it is one that feels long overdue for us to have and acknowledge, right? And so I am just really curious, considering, the path that you've been on, why municipal politics for you?
I have been asked, and it's very odd and surreal to me that I have at my background. This is one of those imposter syndrome things, right? I've been asked for years to oddly enough, from my background, I have developed friendships. I've met people in coincidental situations that you wouldn't think I would meet. But I connected to people that always pushed me to be more. And I've been asked to run for every party. And well, maybe not the Rhino Party, but I've been asked to run for every party. And I swore I would never do it. I didn't think I belonged at the table because of the diversity and difference in my background. And I decided, deep dark COVID, I decided that, yeah, maybe I do. And I needed to represent. And I would never, I will never say never, but I can't see myself in a party politics because I could not be expected to toe a party line. I could not. I can't see myself having to not being able to have a free voice. And where I am now, I can. And I think there's a piece missing as well when it comes to municipal politics, because we have representatives of different levels of government, but their representation area is so vast, where I think in this day and age, with the political climate and issues that we're having, I think there's this piece missing in micro community, in our neighborhoods, in our neighbors and our friends and people that live in our neighborhood on our streets, that doesn't exist like it used to. And I think there needs to be more of a seeing each other as humans and connectivity. And I don't think you can do that when you're representing a wide swath of people. That's and again, I remember when I was door knocking, running for office, and people don't always understand party politics and how the political landscape and civil politics, how it works. And I would always be asked, what party are you from? And I would always say, Party Ward 4. People didn't realize that there was no party in municipal politics. And a lot of times I had to have an actual conversation about what politics is and how it works and with everyday people. And I think that's a piece that's missing in our society as well. But now I'm rambling.
And no, you're not rambling at all. It's a good education, right? Because I know that some people want to try and attach their potential municipal leader to a certain political party and will be looking for that and wanting to know what that is, right? But it is really representation of the community, the people really that is nonpartisan, that there is no partyship attached to it. You may personally have your own alignment, but that's not the platform that you venture into politics about, right? So it's always a great learning, and I love these discussions because it's always helpful for us to know about how the political nature of that works, right? And so this is going to be a great conversation, Amy, and I know our conversation is going to go really, really fast because we have, about 1 minute left right now before we head into the commercial. I have a very quick question. Just to kind of leave us off on, when you were a young girl, what was the dream? What did you think you would be doing in your career?
I didn't have my background. When I was a kid, I was just trying to get through my days. I didn't, because of being neurodiverse and things and being different. I am weird and I'm proud of it. It wasn't exactly, there was just much social pressures and issues and trying to fit in. I didn't really project to the future of what maybe I wanted to see or what I envisioned myself to be. The barriers in my mind were there. I didn't,
And fair enough, right? Because I think every answer to that question is a valid, great answer, right? You're beating to your own drum here. You know what I mean? Like you're creating your own path. So it's a perfect answer, because we could have many viewers right now who are in the same position and thinking, I really don't even know where I'm headed, right? So on that
100%.
100%. So on that note, we're going to take a very, very quick break. And for our viewers, please stay with us. We're going to continue this great conversation with Amy Corser, and we will be right back.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
This is a perfectly healthy child. What's unhealthy are birth alerts, a racist practice that may stop this Indigenous mother from going home with her newborn. Become an ally. Rise above racism in healthcare.
Focus better.
Partner better.
Sleep better.
Breathe better.
Love better. Work better. Friend better. Unwind better.
Everything gets better when you get active.
Welcome back to Educate, Inform, and Challenge. Again, my name's Teresa MacLennan, Executive Director of the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. I'm smiling because we're having this great conversation with Amy Corser, Ward 4 Councillor for the City of Barrie. And we're just having a really transparent, honest conversation about municipal politics, Amy's own personal journey and how she got there. And I think it is enlightening. It's refreshing to hear. And I hope that you're enjoying the conversation as much as I am, as you can see from my smile for our viewers. So Amy, let's just dive right back in. So I'm going to ask you this question, and it might be a very big question, but what do you think, why is it important that women have a voice at the table in terms of municipal politics?
I think it's important because municipal deals with our everyday, our rec centers, are like I mentioned before, like our community, our neighbors. Building that one-to-one in a smaller atmosphere than what would be federal or provincial because they're different issues. I know there's hot topics. I know there's big issues there, but women are typically the family. They are the community builders. And I think that women in municipal politics is incredibly important because they bring that to the table. As business is important, but there's also that the community and looking at through a lens that is more of a building bridges and people together. And I think that women actually bring that together well with a sense of practicality and with the sense of importance of the issues that are happening in our community, more so than I shouldn't say more so than men, but we need to have equal representation at the table. So that is, our voices are measured and heard, because it's funny because you look at the landscape of municipal politics, and a lot of municipalities are going backwards. You're having less women at the table than more recently. And I think that more with division and issues, I think that we need to have more women at the table because we're the bridge builders. We create that community and we create that connection with people more so than maybe what would be traditionally like this hardline political adversarial conversations that we're used to having. Just because we're at a table in a political realm doesn't mean we need to be adversarial. We need to build consensus, and women do that. Women can have those conversations. Women can be vulnerable. We can understand each other. We have that sense of empathy to have those conversations. And I think that more than now than ever, it's important to have much more representation at a municipal level.
How hard is it to be a woman in municipal politics?
I get this question a lot. And we know that right now there is a lot of angst. There's a lot of, you read it in the news. You see that municipalities across Ontario are having issues with abuse, verbal abuse, and rhetoric, and the division that's happening now. Being a woman in politics, I think they say you need to have tough skin, but I think that we need to be more vulnerable not to the abuse that we're receiving, but to stand up and say it's happening and to be transparent in that sense. Being a woman in politics needs to be, I'm trying to walk that fine line between being, that fine line between putting up with it and voicing it. Because the more that we actually speak out about what is happening, the less power I believe people have over us in that sense. It is also challenging at the table because I don't come from this type of background. So trying to see or trying to relate to people who I don't agree with, and especially when it's something that it's like line in the sand in my mind, and having to bridge that and having that conversation, and they accept it or try to view it from somebody else's point. I think I've grown a lot, but it is something that it's really hard to put into context because, like I said, being at the table is something that is absolutely new to me. And I know when I was running for office, I did not receive, thankfully, I did not receive the pushback. I did not receive the sexism. I did not receive the misogyny that I was kind of bracing myself for at the doors. I had a lot of elderly gentlemen say, "Oh, thank you. It's about time." And it really caught me off guard because I wasn't expecting that. I'm not saying it happens to everybody. I can only speak to my personal experience. And I received a lot. I was terrified to knock on doors. I was petrified to knock on doors when I was starting to run. It was probably the one thing that held me back. Just to put yourself out there and walk up and knock on someone's door like that. And the amount of encouragement I received, I wasn't prepared for. It was really kind of heartwarming, and it was really very encouraging. And not to say that my experience is the same as everyone's, but I've probably gone completely off track of what the question was. But I wanted to make sure that people know that it's not always that visceral thing that you might see on the news all the time.
And I am thrilled to hear that has been your experience. I think that that's wonderful to know, right? Because as a community member, you want to believe and to think and to know that your municipal leaders, who we've all elected in, are working well together, are playing nice in the sandbox. And some of that old school thinking and way of doing things about the roles of men and women doesn't apply and isn't a factor anymore. We want to believe that is true. And so I'm refreshing. It's refreshing to hear that has been, your experience, right? Because that means a great deal, because that means that we're moving in the right direction, right?
And if I just could add too, that I think the more women we have at the table, the culture changes.
Yeah.
Because the more women we have there with all of our women's great attributes that we carry, that culture changes. We won't, moving forward, it just makes safety and like empathy and voices heard. So it's important.
So believe it or not, we only have about 5 minutes left, Amy. I knew that our time would go quickly because it's just so easy to talk with you, and there's just a comfort, right? Like, because you are just very open and you're honest about your life experience and who you are, and you want people to know you, right? And I want to make the most of our last 5 minutes together here on the program. So if there is a young girl who is watching today, or a woman in our community who's looking at you and hearing your story and going, "I never thought that could be me, but you know what? Maybe that could be me." What words of encouragement, what do you want her to take from this conversation today that might inspire her to sit in your shoes?
Honestly, I I swore I'd never run for office. I swore I'd never run for office. And the first step was I could never see myself being that. And the first step is the hardest. Like first recognizing it. If your friends or colleagues or people are telling you, or if you feel that you should, then you should, honestly. And I think that that first commitment of saying it out loud is the hardest part of saying, I'm going to run. And once that commitment, once you say it and it starts to move quickly and you start to build that momentum and it's not as scary. The scariest part is saying it, I think. For me, that was the hardest part, was actually believing it, saying it, doing it. I am going to. And once I got past that, you kind of get swept up in it. And for anyone out there, if there is a young lady in our community that wants to run for office or wants to explore that, I encourage you to reach out to me because I would love to have that conversation. And there's also multiple different organizations. Equal Voice is one. We were doing politics for women, pints and politics. I think we were looking to do that again. I'm looking to fire that back up, to have those conversations that we can have women come out and know that you can and you will and you'll be supported. Yeah. So.
And I remember that because I interviewed Jen Armstrong at one point and Anne-Marie Kungle, and we were talking about pints and politics. So you come on out, you have a beer, and we talk about municipal, well, not me, but they talk about municipal politics, and they just talk about how to the next steps to take, if you do have an interest in that. So I just want to ask you this other question before we have to leave, Amy. Yep. You said, the hardest part was making the decision and saying to yourself, right, that, yes, this is what I'm really interested in. When you did that, were you hearing your own negative messages in your head saying, wait a minute, no, no, no?
The no stopped me from doing it. Once I said it and told people, you can't go back. It's like, you're saying it, you've stepped out. And the landslide of support I received, and women do receive the encouragement that women receive. And there's so many resources out there. One Google search will find like a ton of them. And local elected women officials that maybe not even just municipal, but different levels. If whatever seems to fit you, reach out, because we want women that are in these chairs want more women.
I think for our viewers, and if you're hearing what Amy is saying, you can believe it to be true, that, if you have an interest and you want to know more, she would be so happy to have a conversation with you about that, right? And that is one of the beautiful things, too, that I do know about the women who are on our council right now. They are supportive, encouraging, inspiring, and they want other women at the table. They want women to explore that. Please, we're going to share Amy's contact information. If you have an interest, please reach out to her. Amy, thank you so much for our conversation today. Please take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.